No matter how many times a particular boss is beaten, they just can't take a hint. Maybe they'll pop up in the sequel as the true mastermind behind the scenes, or perhaps they didn't really die in the previous battle and are now back for more. Only one thing is guaranteed, and that's how they'll never truly be defeated. Let's take a look at such bosses that fit into that category. Spoilers abound, so beware. Guardian Ape. Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. Immortality in Sekiro is a curse, something you learn firsthand when dealing with the Guardian Ape. It's torturous enough with its grabs, slams, and dung, and you'd think things would end upon severing its head. However, the Guardian Ape resurrects and utilizes the sword embedded in its neck, along with terror, to make the fight even more annoying. Stabbing its centipede ends the fight but won't permanently kill the ape. Instead, when traveling to the Ashina depths, you'll fight the headless ape again, only this time it receives some backup from its mate. Defeating it will result in the centipede taking a rest, until you come back with a mortal blade and kill it for good. Baldur, God of War 2018.
Fine. My turn.
Does Baldur have one of the best introductions of a major villain in video games? Probably, because who else just shows up at the house of the former ghost of Sparta and immediately engages in a fist fight? Fighting on an even level with Kratos is one thing, but Baldur also shows himself capable in the mind games department. While the second battle is more of a cinematic sequence, it's the final fight with Baldur that's the true highlight. Even with all the punishment he's taken, that too after losing his immortality, he still keeps fighting against Atreus and Kratos right to the bitter end. Nemesis, Resident Evil 3 Remake.
Rocket launcher? Really?
Even if Resident Evil 3 Remake removed some key segments compared to the original, it still made Nemesis out as a huge threat. The first proper boss fight has it attacking with a flamethrower. Destroying the fuel tank only results in said flamethrower becoming an exploding melee weapon. Its second form is more monstrous, with powerful attacks and surprising agility as it literally clambers across the surrounding vehicles and on top of buildings. Of course, the final encounter is another thing entirely, as the Nemesis morphs into a massive, grotesque creature with huge slams and sweeping attacks to go with its acidic projectiles. Blowing it up with the railgun is just that much more satisfying, though. Diablo. Diablo series. The Dark Lord, the Lord of Terror, the Prime Evil. Diablo goes by many names, but he's also undying. The first game was straightforward enough: defeat Diablo to stop his reign of terror. In Diablo 2, Diablo works to free the other Prime Evils and must ultimately be defeated in Hell, providing one of the toughest challenges in action RPGs at the time. Diablo 3 sees Leah serving as the vessel for Diablo, bringing him back to the world yet again. Players must deal with Diablo in the normal realm and also in the realm of terror, defeating his shadows in the process. Whether Diablo returns or not in the fourth game remains to be seen, but perhaps he's lurking, waiting for the right moment to strike. Ridley, Metroid series. Ridley is Samus's biggest foe, and thanks to his regenerative powers, perhaps the most persistent as well. In the first Metroid, Ridley was a relatively simple boss, spewing fireballs while hopping in one place. This became much tougher in Super Metroid as Ridley bounced continuously and doled out fireballs at an incredible speed. Metroid Prime sought to shake things up by introducing Meta Ridley, a cybernetic version of the Pest who now properly flew over the battlefield firing beams and projectiles when not landing and taking some swipes. Of course, this form reappears in Metroid Prime 3, but is Omega Ridley, now infused with Phazon and fighting more on the ground with devastating fire breath, and that's just the first phase. Ridley would appear again in Metroid Other M, serve as a major threat in Super Smash Bros. Brawl onwards, before being playable in Ultimate, and also featured in handheld titles like Metroid Fusion, Zero Mission, and Samus Returns. Sigma, Mega Man X series. It shouldn't be that surprising that Sigma never stayed dead, but it's insane just how many returns he's had. In Mega Man X1, he led the Mavericks and put up somewhat of a tough fight, first showcasing his beam saber skills and then having his detached head control a giant robot. Mega Man X2 saw him utilizing dual claws and more teleporting before turning into a giant wireframe head. Of course, by this point it's revealed that Sigma is a computer virus and will keep coming back stronger than ever each time. This trend continues throughout the series, but perhaps his best appearance is in Mega Man X4. Sigma is battling with an energy scythe and then eye lasers before taking on a giant teleporting form with floating robot heads and a massive head littered with wires. Sephiroth, Final Fantasy VII. Sephiroth just didn't give up in the original Final Fantasy VII. Upon entering the final battle, players had to deal with Bizarro Sephiroth, who must be fought with up to 3 different teams. He has multiple parts that must be destroyed, and hilariously enough, being max level actually adds more health to each. Safer Sephiroth, despite the name, is also pretty deadly and has a high health pool and limitless MP. Granted, the final one-on-one battle in the livestream is impossible to lose, but that's more of a cinematic fight than anything else. Even after all of this, Sephiroth is still revived years later in Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, proving more than enough of a challenge for Cloud. This isn't even accounting for his appearances in Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, where he was much, much tougher than any of the other bosses. Krool, Donkey Kong Country series. Blame it on the Kong family never really putting him down or Nintendo's love for returning antagonists, but Krool just kept coming back in the Donkey Kong Country series. It started in Donkey Kong Country 1, where he went by King Krool and had his crown, cannonballs, and lethal jumps to best the Kongs. Donkey Kong Country 2 is where he became Captain Krool and relied on his trademark blunderbuss while also utilizing gases to stun or slow his opponents. In Donkey Kong Country 3, Baron K. Rulenstein was his new identity, as he used electricity, machines, a helipack, and other tricks to defeat his enemies. But perhaps his most iconic is in Donkey Kong 64, where K. Rool dons the Crusha moniker and challenges all of the Kongs to a 5-round boxing match. It's hilarious, but also surprisingly challenging since you need to figure out how to best use each Kong's abilities to win. Jack Baker, Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. While Wesker would be the easy choice for Resident Evil fans, we have to give the nod to Jack Baker. Despite only making an appearance in Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, he quickly became one of the most imposing, terrifying foes in the series' history. The initial fight in the garage, where Jack hops into a car and attempting to run you over, is already pretty insane. This is followed by another fight where, despite taking multiple shots, Jack just keeps getting back up, and even has a chainsaw duel with Ethan. And even after being horribly mutilated, Jack comes back again in a highly mutated form. But you think that was the end? Because in the end of Zoe DLC, Jack is back yet again as the Swamp Thing. Unfortunately for him, Joe Baker, his older brother and Zoe's uncle, is having none of this nonsense, leading to the manliest fight in the entire series. Ganondorf, or Ganon, The Legend of Zelda series. You have to hand it to Ganondorf. He's been defeated, destroyed, sealed away, and so on multiple times, but he's still kicking. In The Legend of Zelda on NES, Ganon utilized invisibility and fireballs to best Link, but was eventually defeated with the Silver Arrow. Naturally, he had to up the difficulty in A Link to the Past, using fireballs, fire keys, collapsing the floor and falling from which causes the fight to start again, and turning invisible. He also requires 4 silver arrows before finally being defeated. This is only just the beginning though. In Ocarina of Time, Ganondorf is fought first before dealing with the demonic Ganon. The Wind Waker saw Ganondorf utilizing numerous forms before engaging in a 2-on-1 fight with Zelda and Link. And it just goes on, culminating in Breath of the Wild where Link must defeat 4 different Scourge forms, then Calamity Ganon, which can be weakened by freeing the beasts beforehand, and finally, Dark Beast Ganon. Teasers for the Breath of the Wild sequel indicate that Ganon will be back again for yet another round, so it should be interesting to see what tricks he uses this time. And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from Gaming Bolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.